Welcome back to episode 8 of The Truth About Legal Journalism Unfiltered. I'm glad to have you with us as we delve into one of the most complex aspects of legal journalism today, the intersection between media, public opinion, and the construction of legal narratives. In this episode, we will explore how media outlets can craft powerful legal narratives that sway public opinion, shape legal processes, and at times undermine the integrity of justice. How does the media, intentionally or unintentionally, influence the public's perception of justice and the rule of law? Is this an inevitable part of democratic society, or is there a tipping point where media starts to overshadow the legal system itself? Stay tuned as we unpack the multifaceted relationship between media, public opinion, and the law. Let's get started. Part 1 of this lecture is about the influence of media on public opinion. Let's start by discussing the immense power that media holds in shaping public opinion, especially when it comes to legal cases. The role of media in society is not just limited to informing the public, it goes far beyond that. Media, especially in high profile cases, often shapes how the public perceives the facts, the actors involved, and even the verdict itself. Take the Kavanaugh confirmation hearing in the United States. The media storm surrounding the allegations of sexual assault against Brett Kavanaugh was not just about the facts of the case, it was about how the media framed those facts. The public was exposed to an overwhelming emotional narrative, where media outlets on both sides either positioned Kavanaugh as a hero or a villain, based on their ideological leaning. In India, we have seen similar examples, such as the Aadhaar case, where the media's framing of the debate around privacy and surveillance polarized public opinion. While the Supreme Court was deciding on the constitutional validity of the Aadhaar, the media was flooded with arguments about the potential abuse of system, painting the case as a battle between privacy and national security. The narrative made it difficult for the public to distinguish between facts and opinions, and for the judiciary to maintain its neutrality. So, how does media shape public opinion? Through sensational headlines, selective reporting, framing of issues, and emotional appeals. Media outlets can mold perceptions long before any legal ruling is made. This is where the line between responsible journalism and media trials start to blur. Part 2 of this lecture is on the creation of legal narratives by media. Now let's talk about how the media constructs legal narratives. A legal narrative isn't simply a report on a case. It's the story that is told through media coverage, sometimes created, sometimes influenced by the biases of journalists or news organizations. In the digital age, where news cycles are fast-paced and attention spans are short, the need for captivating story often takes precedence over the accuracy of the legal arguments or the subtleties of the case itself. When you turn on the news or scroll through social media, the headlines and images often focus on the drama of the case, not necessarily the legal principles being discussed. Take, for example, the Delhi riots case of 2020. Media outlets worldwide covered the case extensively, but the narrative often shifted between being a communal riot and a political conspiracy, depending on the outlet's viewpoint. The portrayal of certain individuals as heroes or villains led to the polarized society, even though the legal proceedings were still ongoing. Here, the media framing was more powerful than the legal argument itself in shaping public opinion. Even in landmark cases like the Nirbhaya rape case, the media narrative surrounding the perpetrators, the justice system's delays, and the widespread outrage often overshadowed the legal proceedings. By the time the verdict was delivered, public opinion was already heavily influenced by the media's portrayal of the case. This is a clear example of how media can shape not just perceptions of guilt or innocence, but the entire societal response to the justice. So, how do we strike a balance between a compelling story and the responsibility to report accurately, impartially, and responsibly on legal matters? And more importantly, what happens when the narrative overshadows the pursuit of justice? Part 3 of the lecture is on the fine line between free speech and trial by media. One of the most debated aspects of legal journalism is the balance between free speech and the potential for trial by media. While freedom of speech is a cornerstone of democracy, the question arises, should media outlets have the freedom to create narratives that might jeopardize the fairness of a trial? On one hand, media outlets have the right to report on the facts of the case, highlight injustices, and raise public awareness on legal matters. On the other hand, they must also recognize the power they hold in shaping perceptions and potentially influencing the outcome of a legal proceedings. Consider the Kanhaiya Kumar sedition case. Media outlets across India took sides, some portraying Kumar as a victim of political conspiracy, while others painted him as a dangerous radical. The media's coverage created a narrative that intensified political divisions, overshadowing the core legal issue, whether the charges of sedition were constitutionally valid. The trial was no longer just about the law, it was about public opinion shaped largely by media coverage. When media crosses the line from reporting facts to influencing legal outcomes, we risk undermining the very principle of fairness and justice. Trial by media becomes a serious concern in such scenarios, where public sentiment is influenced by one-sided coverage. So at what point does the freedom of speech become harmful? When should legal proceedings take precedence over media coverage? Part 4 of this lecture is on the media as a double-edged sword. Does it promote justice or undermine it? Media coverage of legal cases is a double-edged sword. On one side, it can serve as a powerful tool for promoting justice by bringing attention to overlooked cases, uncovering corruption or exposing human rights abuses. But on the other side, it can undermine justice by creating public pressure, spreading misinformation and interfering with the legal process. Take the case of Sanjay Dutt, who was convicted under the Arms Act for possession of illegal weapons. The media's sensational coverage of his involvement with underworld figures and his subsequent conviction generated widespread public debate. While it brought attention to the issue of arms trafficking, it also led to the public outrage before the legal process was complete. Many of the arguments in the media were based on speculations rather than fact, creating a narrative that didn't necessarily reflect the complexity of the legal proceedings. In contrast, media coverage can also act as a mechanism for justice. Consider the Me Too movement, where media outlets give a platform to victims of sexual harassment and assault, leading to investigations and legal proceedings. The media's coverage of these cases helps empower women and shine a spotlight on abuse that would otherwise have remained in the shadows. But in both of these cases, we see how media can either bolster or undermine the judicial process. It's not just about what is being reported, it's about how it's being framed and whether that framing respects the principles of due process and impartiality. Part 5 of this lecture is on question: can legal journalism protect justices in media-saturated world? Given the complex relationship between media and the law, we must ask, can legal journalism protect justice in a media-saturated world? The answer lies in responsible reporting. Legal journalists have a duty to report with accuracy, impartiality, and integrity. They must prioritize facts over sensationalism and avoid creating a narrative that influences public opinion before the case is adjudicated. But it's not just the responsibility of journalists. Media organizations too must foster ethical reporting practices that prevent the creation of biased or harmful narratives. They need to recognize the power they have and use it wisely, focusing on providing the public with information that enables informed decisions rather than stoking fear, outrage, or division. The judiciary also plays a role in safeguarding justice by imposing restrictions on media coverage when necessary, such as in cases where ongoing public discourse threatens the fairness of a trial. Ultimately, protecting justice in a media-driven world requires a balance between need for transparency, the right to free speech, and the preservation of the integrity of the legal process. As we conclude this episode, let's reflect on the future of legal journalism and its role in democracy. Media plays a pivotal role in shaping how we view justice, how we view the law, and how we interact with the legal system as a society. The line between reporting and influencing is often thin, and it's up to all of us, journalists, legal professionals, and citizens alike, to ensure that media coverage upholds the principles of fairness, impartiality, and transparency. We must ask ourselves, how can we encourage responsible legal journalism that strengthens democracy rather than undermines it? How can we strike a balance between the media's role as a watchdog and its power to shape public opinion? These are questions that we must continue to address as we navigate the complex relationship between law, media, and justice in the years to come. Thank you for joining me on episode 8 of The Truth About Legal Journalism Unfiltered. I look forward to your thoughts and comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth discussions on the intersection of law, media, and society. See you next time on the next hearing. This is Amod Bhuri. Thank you.
you.